Hi,
Hello. I'm so happy to talk to you today. It's so good seeing you.
happy Monday.
Happy Monday. That's right. Things just keep reminding me that today is in fact Monday. Fabulous. So hello everyone. Oh, great. People said it's working. Fantastic. Thank y'all for joining. For those of you that don't know, I am Chelsea Brona. I'm head of communications for HearMe, and I'm really excited to have Tonja Myles here today. I'm going to let her take over and tell y'all a little bit about herself because, I mean, that you're amazing. You do all the things, and I could not even begin to name everything that you're working on in the mental health, the trauma space, recovery, all of it, all of it. It's amazing. And so we are really excited to be here today to talk to y'all. We're going to touch on peer support. We're going to talk about, minority mental health, and we're going to talk about the new 988 number that launched on Saturday and what that means, particularly, if we're talking to some of our listeners who are trying to support other people or just in general for the public to know, like, what does this mean for locally? What does it mean nationally? So really excited to have you here. Tonja, I will let you take it from here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just jump into some of the other topics.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I love Hear Me and the work that Chelsea, you have been doing for years. I kind of feel like I'm a proud aunt. I'm like your aunt or your big sister or something like this because I have
I love
seen
it.
you grow. And so it's like, okay, that's enough. All right. But I am really, I really, really, really am. I mean, you are amazing. And the stuff that you do, your heart to serve people and what Hear Me is doing across the country is amazing. So I just want to say that first of all. So, none of this work we can do by ourselves. And so we have to have good partnerships and friendships and collaborations like we do. So anytime you guys ask me to do something, you already know I'm like, okay, just let me know then. So thank you so much. So my name is Tonja Myles, and I'm a certified peer support specialist, trauma expert. I'm also a veteran. I am a wife. I am a aunt to some of the most amazing nieces and nephews in the country. They are the love of my lives. I love doing this work. My husband and I are both licensed ordained ministers, and we have a nonprofit called Set Free Indeed, and we've been doing this work for probably over 30 years. When I say that for 30 years, then it kind of tells my age. I have great birthdays. I'm not going to tell you guys how many birthdays I have, but most people didn't think I lived to be 18. So the fact that I do have this many birthdays is just a win-win. I wake up every day on a mission to push hope. Because I know firsthand what addiction looks like. I know what sexual abuse looks like and trauma and having a mental health diagnosis looks like. And so I've been in recovery for about over 36 years. My drug of choice was crack cocaine. Like I said, I was molested when I was 7. The first time I was tried to kill myself, I was 13. I'm a 3-time suicide attempt survivor. I've been, raped. I had a lot of bad, behavior that I chose to live a lifestyle that was not good, which included prostitution. But I always hated myself. I hated the skin I was in. I started using drugs at an early age to try to mask the hurt from the sexual assault that was done on me. And I just, basically all my life I was living to die. Suicide was always a plan B in my back pocket. Because of all the things that happened to me. I was shamed, I was hurt, I was embarrassed. I didn't know what to do with all these feelings. I stayed angry a lot most of my life. I am also a veteran. I was in the military for 9 years as a military police. Some of the best years of my life was spent in the military. And look, if I had to go back again, I would. But one of the things that I think as a certified peer support specialist, I love this work. But I also think one of the best things that I'm good at is being a comedian. I think I am very funny. My husband does not think I'm funny. I think I am hilarious. But, a merry heart does good like a medicine. And, working in this field of mental health and substance abuse, it's a lot. Working with people with trauma, it's a lot. And so people always ask me all the time, Tonja, you're doing all this amazing work. What about you? And, I learned the hard way. I can do all this amazing work. But at the end of the day, the best work that I can do is on myself first, because I have to make sure that, I am helping from a healthy place. And so I have people that I'm accountable to, and I go to therapy every Tuesday from 9 o'clock to 10. Shout out to my therapist. I work out, 3 times a week with a trainer. I do take medication when I wake up, medication when I go to bed. And I live a productive life with a mental health diagnosis. And all the resources and the hope that I have, I made a vow to God, if he would help me, if he would give me my dignity, my self-respect back, that I would wake up every day to serve people and to let people know that just like he did it for me, he could do it for them. And so I'm very serious about that. I don't play when it comes to mental health and substance abuse and trauma. I love using my voice and my resources to push hope, because at the end of the day, we all deserve to heal. It's our birthright that everybody deserves to heal. And that's going to look different for everyone. So I love sharing my story. I'm grateful that, the little tagline that from the crack houses to the White House is basically my life. And so I'm just grateful to do this work. I mean, it's hard work, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm just grateful again that I'm alive to do this. So every day that I wake up, you already know I'm pushing hope.
I love it. I'm grateful you're alive to do this, because you've inspired me and pushed me to do more, and to, I know you said it for me, but like I feel that way too. So I'm so happy you're here. And I'm so happy you're alive today. Because you definitely are someone that or somebody that inspires, I think, others to keep going, and I think a lot of people have, because of you, and that's no small thing. So thank you for being here. And so that, as you can see, that is why I could not take over and say all of the things and do a proper introduction, because the work you've done in all these spaces, obviously all to bring awareness around and offer support for mental health and substance use, is just incredible. And so we'll, like I said, we'll touch on a lot of different topics here. So if we go off on a tangent, great. I don't want you to feel like we can't talk about certain things just because I asked a specific question. So if you have anything you want to add, I don't need to tell you this. I know you will. But because, our listeners and especially as we bring on this peer support staff, they are really working in this specialized peer support space, which looks different than, than a therapist or a psychologist and things like that. And some people don't necessarily understand what that looks like. To be like a peer support specialist. So can you talk a little bit more about your role as a peer supporter, as a peer counselor, and, what's been rewarding? What's the challenging things about that? Because I know it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, so funny story. So my husband and I, we opened up the first licensed faith-based treatment center in the state of Louisiana called Free and D Treatment Center, and we sold it in 2010. I'm going somewhere with this. That's why this is a funny story. So, I wrote curriculums even when we, wrote the model for Step Free. That was many years ago when I was told, oh, you will never have a, faith-based treatment center. That's because it's unconstitutional because of separation of church and state and all this stuff like that. So again, I wrote it anyway, just thinking I'll just write this one day and one day we'll make it happen. And I just put it on the shelf, and then it came into fruition. And so so I understand the role of a psychiatrist. I understand the role of a medical director, having a therapist, a social worker, a whole treatment team. I understand that. But I also know that when you bring someone who have lived experience, like us, then that brings a whole nother dynamic to that space. And so when I first heard about peer support specialists, when someone said, Tonja, this is kind of the wave. Everything is going to start going towards, more peer powered, if you will. Or RI International is one of, the biggest certification of peer support specialists. And they have this thing called peer power. And I love it. And so even most of their staff, I think 40% of their staff across the country is peer support specialists. How cool is that? Yeah. So anyway, so when they said, you should be a certified peer support specialist, I'm like, no, I'm good. I've been in recovery a long time. I don't need to be a certified peer support specialist. Don't really know what that is, but I mentor people and I sponsor people, so I'm good. And it's like, no, you really should. This is something, and they know the trends of mental health and substance abuse, and they were like, no, this is the thing that's going to be trending. And I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm like, I'm done. I know all this. I woke up like this. And so he's like, no, you should look into it. So I looked into it, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll go ahead and get the certification because I'm always trying to grow like all of us. And I'm like, okay, if this is going to help, fine. But I know this already. So anyway, so I signed up and I was, went to the training and I had my laptop and I'm ready. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and just absorb the information because I know it all already, because yay, I've been doing this forever. So I'm sitting there and I'm just, ready. And then, God said, Tonja, you so out of order. If you don't close that laptop and if you don't open your heart and mind and listen, you don't know everything, sister. So chill out. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, so then I just kind of zenned out. And then for the next 2 weeks, I learned a whole lot. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how cool is this? How cool that this is not just being a glorified sponsor or a mentor. This is an evidence-based best practice, a certification for people like me who have my lived experience, who's used to telling my story of hope, who are used to, mentoring and talking to people and things of that nature. But this takes it up to another level. And then when they start talking about the 10 core functions of a peer support specialist and, working in a field and things of that nature. Well, a lot of the language they was talking about, I knew because I'm like, I've been at a treatment table before, but what was missing was a person with lived experience like me to, engage that person who so bravely said, I want treatment today, or I want help today. And so to be there to say, you know what, you can do this. I've been there. I've done that. I've had to walk the same roads. Our story might be different, but in a sense, they're similar. And if I could do it, you can do it. And so I like to say that certified peer support specialist, that psychiatrist or that therapist might be the coach. We're the cheerleaders. We're the ones who cheering them on saying, yes, you can do this. Yes, you got your treatment team. Yes, you got your safety plan. Yes, you got your plan of action in place. And we're going to help you do that. We're going to rah-rah you in. We're going to, make sure that we connect you to other resources or whatever you need to help get you to that place in recovery. And so it's just a beautiful thing. And I've seen, the peer support specialist movement morph into something that's so amazing. And look, it's kind of funny too, because, a lot of people are like, who are, LCSW. Look, I love LCSW, MSW, anybody who deal in a mental health professional. Those are my people. But, at first when I would say, okay, I'm a certified peer support specialist. And they would go, and what does that mean? And so, and then when I'm talking to, I was in a room one time when I was with a psychiatrist and it was me. And the psychiatrist almost dismissed me and like, wait, you can't. I'm like, no, according to my 12 core functions and according to my certifications, I can, as a peer support specialist. He's like, what's that? And so then a couple of weeks later, he called me. He said, wow, I'm sorry that I might have, been rude about your role, but I just did not know. And oh my God, how great is this for me as a doctor to have someone with a lived experience that can help someone engage them and navigate them on their journey of wellness. And so y'all, it's just been a beautiful thing. It's been a challenge because a lot of times people, just saw us as glorified glorified sponsors, or want to say, oh, well, a peer support specialist, just have them answer the door and, take notes or go clean the bathroom. No, baby, I don't mind doing all that. Don't get me wrong, because I'm a servant, but, I'm a professional just like you are. And so it's been interesting to see all of that come into place, but it's a thing and people are embracing it and it's evidence-based and we're peers and we're here and we're not going anywhere.
I love it. I love that. I love I love that you're cheerleaders. I love that analogy. That's fantastic. And it has been really, really cool to see how it's progressed and now how peer support is now a part of the overall conversation about mental health support, mental health recovery support. It's now a piece of the puzzle. It's a tool in your toolkit. It's all the things that it should be. And you're starting to see that conversation happen more and more in the clinical mental health spaces, and to understand that, just like you said, none of us can do any of this alone. And so as many people that are there in order to provide the help that people need, I think the better. So I'm so excited about, what we're seeing definitely in the shift in that. But I can imagine it was not an easy path, and it continues, I'm sure, to have some road bumps along the way where people just don't really understand it as much. And so that's why I love that we're having conversations like this, that we are getting to talk about what that looks like on so many different levels, because, I think peer support obviously has this amazing space in the recovery world, and it's really that's kind of where it started. And
Yeah.
so now it's really being able to expand that into mental health, mental illness, and what that looks like for people who feel really alone in what they're dealing with, and to know that somebody, just like you said, even if you haven't been through the same thing as them, just to know that you went through this, you're on sort of on the other side of it. It's always going to be a daily struggle, but to have somebody say, you're not alone, there is hope, like there is healing on the other end of this, is so special and so important. And a lot of like my own journey, that there were points that happened where somebody came to me and said, I feel this too, and it's like, oh, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's just like a relief. And then it's so much more than that, because there's all the training that goes behind it, and all the things you've been through really build that foundation to be able to actually provide real resources for people. You said evidence-based, and that's it.
Yeah, and not only that, but again, I was looking at this weekend, someone was having, one of the NFL players was having a football camp, and so he had a lot of kids there, and a lot of kids were drawn to his camp because he was an NFL player that they saw themselves, him playing as a little boy, and him going to junior high school and elementary and high school and college, and now in the NFL, and that was the draw. The draw was his lived experience. The draw was he looked a lot, like some of these, young boys and girls who, wanted to play football. And so they were like, oh yeah, well, I want to learn from him because, he went through some of the same things that, that I want to go through to get to this level. And so those camps are successful. Just imagine, I mean, if someone if that guy who played soccer wanted to do a football camp, well, people probably wouldn't come because they're like, we want football, not soccer, So it's like that. So now, just they had an amazing camp. So just imagine someone who's saying the same thing. Look, I've been through some of the same struggles. I suffer with anxiety, depression, and so I want to see someone, or I want to talk to someone with lived experience who has been where I am, who's where I am, and said, hey, look, this can happen. You can do this, this, and this. You can live your best life. Mental health diagnosis does not have to define you. And so, that's the beauty of it. And it's not just us sitting down telling our story. It's actually, connecting people to the hope that that they need. I understand what a treatment, plan look like. I understand, HIPAA and all that stuff, because that's a lot of things when a lot of people are, speaking against peer support specialists. Oh, well, they're just telling the story. No, we're part of a treatment team. We know how to connect people to resources. We know how to, keep them engaged when, they're feeling, some kind of way, and they're like, you know what, I can't get off the couch today. I don't know if I want to take my medication. Oh, well, what do I do? No, this is what you do. Let us help you advocate for yourself. Go and talk to your prescriber and say, you know what, this medicine is not working for me. Can we try something else? And so those are the kind of things that, we bring to the table. And again, we work in concert with, that treatment team or whatever that person who wants to help, if it's family or friends, we're a part of, like you said, Chelsea, we're a part of their toolbox. We're part of their resource system. And so as peer support specialists, we have to be trained on all this. We have CEUs that we have to keep up with, and things of that nature. So we're trained, we're qualified, we're compassionate. And because we do have that lived experience, people do tend to listen a little bit more, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to see, someone successful, someone living their best life with a mental health diagnosis. And we want people to know that just like we do it, just like you and I do it, and so many others, that they can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So let's jump a little bit to talking a little bit more about like what, and not just peer support, but just mental health in general. What does that mean for minority mental health as we move into BIPOC Mental Health Awareness Month? What is the role peer support play for marginalized communities? And I know you talk a lot about this, and this is part of your work. And then we'll jump into obviously what 988 means and like how that ties into the conversation too.
Well, yeah, again, mental health is something that, people, we're talking about it now like never before, which is a great thing. But, particularly for, communities of color, historically, we don't talk about mental health. Look, I guess I'm in two categories, as a, Black woman, and then also as someone who is a pastor. And so, even as a kid, we were always told, you suck it up. If we're going through something, you don't tell people your business. That, you just go pray about it, and that's basically it. And that, therapy or a psychiatrist, that's for white people. That ain't for us. We don't do all that. That's not us. And so being told that, and learning to just, well, you can't feel, again, my dad, and he was doing the best he could. He would just always say, Tonja, you suck it up. You can't cry. You got to be tough. You can't never let people see you cry. And so, things like that, and just not knowing, just not knowing better. When we know better, we do better. And so that's why I talk about, mental health in the African American community, because not only because, like I said, because of culturally, that's something we've not done, but then even in the world that we live in, back in the day, there were not a lot of resources for, little Black Tonja, who tried to, kill herself. My parents didn't know what to do. There were not resources in my community to address mental health. And so that's probably another reason why, we just said to go to the church, because we did not have those systems set up in place. And then unfortunately the church, of course we're good about pushing hope and spirituality, but you can't tell nobody when they come to you and say, I'm depressed, I'm anxiety. Oh, that's the devil. That's just a spirit, and I'm going to cast the devil out of you. You know how traumatizing that was for me, when people tell me, that's just a demon inside of you. And look, don't get me wrong, I've done some jacked up stuff in my life, but you wouldn't tell anybody that who came to you and said, look, I'm having an issue with my chest. My left arm is hurting. My neck is hurting. I can't hardly breathe. Yeah, we would say, what? Oh, yeah, we're going to pray for you. But would you send them home? No, you could tell them to go get help immediately. And so, again, when you know better, you do better. And I think having these conversations now in the African American community, we're now open about mental health, to let people know that therapy is not scary, and that your brain is beautiful just like anybody else's, and there should be no discrimination when it comes to the brain. That's a whole preach right there, and so for real, girl, we need to talk about that one on another show. But but just there's so many barriers and so many stigmas. But the beautiful thing is that we're talking about it now. We have platforms like HearMe that you guys do every day, all day. So this is now changing the conversation and the narrative around, communities of color and mental health. And, we say it's okay not to be okay. That's great. But it's okay to reach out and to make sure that we have resources in places, in communities that are underserved, to deal with mental health and addiction. So, even though we're talking about it, even though that we're really bringing it to the forefront, we have to make sure that those resources are in those spaces, or in those underserved communities, to help people when they are having a mental health crisis, or not even a crisis, just to address it, identify it, get the diagnosis, and get the help you need so you can live your best life.
Yeah, and it's just like you said, such the important role of peer support is, if you see somebody that looks like you, who has been what you've been through, and you can actually offer real support, that changes the game. That changes everything, and it makes it more okay to reach out and seek help and feel comfortable doing that with somebody you trust, right? So yeah, it's great. Just like you said, it's great to see, how far we're coming with everything. But obviously, there's always still work to be done. And one of those resources is going to be 988 that launched on Saturday. So tell us a little bit more about that. If you can talk about, what that looks like across the nation, and then what that might look like for more local communities, and how do we talk about it? How do we tell people about this?
Yeah, well, I am super excited about 988. Look, I never thought that anything like this would happen in my lifetime, for real. And as a professional, it's, mental health professional, it is amazing. Personally, it is amazing. And I'll tell you why personally. So there have been 3 times where law enforcement had to be called in a situation in my family. The first time was with my mom. When I finally got off of drugs, my mom was an alcoholic, and she was an alcoholic most of my young life. And I love my mom, and I miss her so much. I wish she was here. Anyway, yeah. And so, but my mom did have 25 years of clean time before she died. And how that clean time came into place is that I was in a space where I had been off of drugs for, I think, a year and a half, and I was in college, and I was getting ready to, um, quit college because I wanted to take better care of my mom. And so when I went to talk to my teacher, she told me that her husband was a substance abuse counselor. And so she said, call him. So he told me what to do. He's like, if she's this bad, you're going to have to go to the coroner's office. Went to the coroner's office, signed the paperwork. And the next day the police came to my house. And I remember my brother and sister, I told them that they knew what was going on. I told them I didn't want them to be there because I didn't want them to see that my mom was going to be put in a police car. And so I said, I just want it to be me. And so, but 20 minutes into it, I couldn't do it. I'm like, I can't do this. And I called my grandmother, I called my mom, best friend, and they came over, and the police did come. My mom was in the back, and they said, Miss Hattie, we're here to get you some help. And so when they was getting her, and I'm like, wait, she's kind of a little drunk already. Do you have to handcuff her? She's not, she's sick. And they were like, I'm sorry, this is the only thing, this is our protocol. So they handcuffed my mom and put her in the back of the police car and took her to the TAW center. And so the fast forward to that, she did say she hated me because how dare you call the police on me to pick me up? I hate you. You're not my daughter. Everything I've done for you and all your drug issues, and this is how you do me. And so when I went to give her clothes, she said she didn't want to see me ever again. That was 4 days into it. But 30 days later, she said that was the best choice that anybody could have made for her, and she thanked me for it. But just this, and even though that turned out good for my mom, and it was still traumatic for me as a young girl to see them handcuff my mom and put her in the back of a police car when she was sick. And so then, fast forward some years ago, my uncle, who was bipolar, schizophrenic, HIV, he was in group homes all of his life. And when my mom died and my grandmother died, then I became his caregiver. And so I had to get him PEC'd several times. And one of the times I got him PEC'd, law enforcement had to be involved. And even though they were trying to de-escalate him, my uncle was 70-something. He fought them, and he broke his shoulder, and so, they had to handcuff him and put him in the back of a police car and take him to get help. And so then 6.5 years ago, I had my own struggle where my husband and I, we were going through a bad time in our marriage, and we separated. And I thought that, when people find out that, we were going to, no longer be Darren and Tonja Myles, that because of my background, having a mental health diagnosis, and my background as being an ex-prostitute and all this bad behavior I had, I was always told, if anything ever happened in your marriage, it's going to be your fault. You're already going to get blamed. And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to get blamed. I'm not going to get out of this marriage with my good name. So I might as well go ahead and end my life. And so anyway, I made a choice. I wrote a note, got all my medication, and I went to find a place where I could, go ahead and end my life, but it'd be a place that my family would find me quickly and just go ahead and lay me to rest. And so just so happened one of my family members wanted to surprise me and come and see me. And when they came to the house, the door was open. They saw pills all over the place. They saw the note. They called the police. Anyway, the police ended up being called out. I did go back to the house because a friend of mine talked me to go back to the house. When I went back, and I asked to do not call the police, because I know this work. I do this all the time. I tell family members, the only thing you have is 911. And I hear them go, is there any other choice? And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's the only choice. And so that night, I was faced with two police officers. One treated me like I was in crisis. One treated me like I was a criminal. And so it could have easily went bad that night because I did want to kill myself. And that was the last time I ever wanted to kill myself. And that cop who was there, I started to launch out at him because being a veteran, that's the noble way that, vets think that they want to die is suicide by cop. And so when the police officer who was engaging me went back to make a phone call, because I was trying to get talked out and not going to, because I knew they was about to take me to the hospital because I wrote a note. I was trying to talk my way out of it. And so the other one who was nice kind of left and went to make a call. And the other one was really rude. And he was mean and he treated me like a criminal. And I decided, Tonja, do not launch out at that man. Don't let that man kill you. Because I thought about it. Because I saw my nephew standing on the left-hand side. And I'm like, this is not what I want him to see. So anyway, it ended up good for me. But what also happened is what was meant for evil, God now turned around for good. Because when I began to share that story, some people reached out to me and said, "Hey, look, we heard your story about what happened to you in crisis and 911, and would you like to share it more?" And so I began to share it more. And then when they asked me to do work around them with 988, so for the last 3 years, I've been doing that. Then I got to share my story on Capitol Hill twice, before Senate Committee and Financing. And then, of course, 988 happened. So, yeah, 988 is a game changer. I know firsthand what crisis look like. We know that crisis happened 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so people are in crisis. They're not criminal. And so because of trauma, tradition, people don't want to interface with law enforcement. Well, guess what? Now we have 988. And with the 988, it's not just a number, because if we have a number and we don't have connections to hope, then what have we really done? So the beautiful thing about it is that it's national. It's all over it's all over our country. But when you call 988 in your area, you're connected to someone who's local, someone who's passionate, who's trained, who's kind, and who also can route you to local resources to get you into that crisis continuum. I like to say it's a call to help, but connections to hope. And so that's the beautiful thing about it. So we know that crisis happen 24 hours, 7 days a week. It does not discriminate. You can be from the curbside to the country club. Life happens. And so this, this 3-digit number, is for anyone. If someone is in crisis and they need help, they can call. If someone loved one is having a challenge, it might be a coworker, it could be someone in your faith community, it could be someone at your college, in your college dorm. Or look, we see a lot, we say this a lot. You know what? I saw the signs, I just did not know what to do. Well, now you can call 988 when you see someone who's distressed and someone that because it doesn't have to just be suicidal. It could be substance abuse. It could be any kind of emotional crisis. And that's the beautiful thing about 988. And so I love the fact that that number is easy to, it's easy to remember, that again, trained people that is attached to that number. But look, the other beautiful thing is that we talked about whole crisis continuum, is that now, everybody's realizing that we have to have more good things in place when a person is in crisis. Look, trauma is real, for real. And so the fact that even crisis mobilization units, teams can now, come on the scene when someone who's having a crisis. How cool is that? I mean, it's like an EMS for a person in crisis. And so, you have crisis, hotlines, you have stabilization centers and things of that nature. So now everything is kind of connecting, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that people know that there's hope, there's help, and there's resources.
Yes, absolutely. We did have a question. What role does law enforcement play in 988, since they're not trained and escalate use of force in communities of color? So what role does 911 and law enforcement, like at what point does law enforcement come in when you dial 988, or is that even part of it?
Yeah, so no, 988 is just that, I mean, unless, somebody is threatened to harm somebody else, might be in a case, or if that's, been known that somebody's in a distress and just say, that they're like, yeah, I'm in a crisis, but somebody's holding me hostage. I mean, then you have to get law enforcement involved. So it's a case by case, but most of the time that, the data says that most of the time someone who calls for a call 68, that's what it is in law enforcement talk, that when it's a code 68, there's no crime being committed. That person is in crisis, Now if that's a crime being committed, that's different, but crisis is not a crime, and so, right now it's not that when 988 is called, you have to call 911. That's not the case. That's the beautiful thing about it. People who are licensed, it might be a nurse practitioner who specializes in psychiatry. It might be a peer support specialist, probably will be, a part of that team. So when that person called that 988 number, like I said, train folks, people like us can be on the scene to help de-escalate and to provide different techniques and resources to that person. So the whole goal of it is when someone's having a crisis to remove, the 911, and again, just have them stay connected to 988.
Yeah. And I know in Louisiana, I know there's like legislation, things like that being pushed or to offer more funding towards getting these mobile units out there to having that full continuum. What does that look like for people that maybe want to be a part of advocating for this in their local communities? Do you have any like advice for them of like who to reach out to or what to do for that?
Oh yeah, so like here in Louisiana, we have LDH, and shout out, to Louisiana Department of Health and OBH, who is doing some really, good work. And I'm not just saying that for real, y'all. If they
Yeah.
wouldn't, I would say they wouldn't, but they really are. They're really trying. I kid you not. They actually listen for real.
Yeah. I
And
know.
so I would say, reach out to your local government entity, call your elected official, call your mayor, call your councilman, call your state official and say, look. First of all, we want to make sure that, there's always funding for 988 because we're talking about it. We see all the mass shootings and everybody's talking about gun control and also, mental health. Okay, well then put that money, make sure it's going into treatment and prevention. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But then also you want to get involved and you want to know what roles or jobs or volunteer opportunities, call, like Louisiana Department, Department of Health, or you can go on SAMHSA. SAMHSA has a website, where you can go to samhsa.gov. And then if you look up 988, and then they also have like a resource pool of what jobs are out there in the different states, California, New York and stuff like that. Click on that, see what those local job opportunities are, and reach out to those organizations.
Yeah, amazing. I actually you shared something and I sat in a call about 988 and it's really important. It was so awesome. I mean, I don't even know how many people were on that call, but it was probably hundreds of people and everyone was just talking about real action,
Yeah.
action oriented plans for what the next step. Like we're doing this is, this is one step, one small step in this like way bigger picture. And that was really, really good to hear and really eye opening to see. And a lot of it, yeah, is exactly like you said. You can be a part of this in so many different ways if you want to. Obviously it's for, if you need to use it, if you need to use it to support somebody you care about and you're not sure who to reach out to, dial the number, and it's going to connect you with local resources. If you want to get involved on an advocacy level, you can reach out. If you want to be a part of it to get a job, to work or volunteer with the line, or be a part of the planning, there's so many opportunities there, and it's going to take a lot of people to make it happen. And so I love that we're talking about this, and I love that this conversation just keeps getting better and better, and that more action is behind the words that we're saying and the conversations that we're having. It's so awesome to see. Let me see if we have any other questions before I move forward. Okay. So what do you know, like what, if is there a next step to the initiative overall? Is there like a next push? I know this was kind of like, I guess they're calling it more of a soft launch to get it across the nation, get more awareness going about dialing the number. Do you know what the next steps are for the initiative?
I guess, the next steps is just to, keep the conversations going like we're having now. I mean, letting people know that 988 is live, that there is an option, that there's, it's a call for help and connections to hope, like I say. And of course, still advocating to make sure that, funding is routed, to help sustain, not just the call centers, but also making sure that, funding is getting to organizations who are actually doing the work, doing the advocacy work, doing the treatment work, doing whatever, to help, people and their families. And so I think advocacy, still has to be strong. I think we still have to hold, those in accountable. Because again, you hear a lot of people talking about mental health. Everybody's talking about mental health. It's like the new buzzword. I'm like, that's
Right.
great. That's good. But baby, let's not just talk about it. Let's be about it. And so making sure that we're, holding those that we have voted, into those offices accountable when it comes to making sure that, funding and that there's good oversight, to make sure people are getting the help that they need. Because look, at the end of the day, we all want to make sure that people are getting adequate help. We want to make sure that people are respected. And that's another cool thing that I'm excited about, that a lot of organizations who have, treated, those with mental health in the past are now understanding trauma. now understanding why it's important to be trauma informed, now understanding why, can you put some paint on your walls? Because if I walk in and having a bad day and you got brown walls, then that's messing with my mood. So how about doing a bright yellow? I'm just saying, people going, well, what does a color have to do with it? It has to do everything. Because, in an environment, it's almost like if I'm trying to plant something outside. I could plant a tree all day, but if I don't plant it in good soil, then it is not going to grow. And so I look at trauma informed being that. I look at, making sure that as we're helping people, we're providing good soil for them to grow in. And so if trauma informs look like, what it looks like when a person walk in, if it's going to look like, oh, well, it's just a person having a mental health challenge or a addict, it should be, it should be just nasty. No, baby, it should be inviting. That should be part of the whole treatment, to make sure the environment is conducive, for healing and things of that nature, that is zen. And you might think it's just a color, but yeah, you might not want to put red on a wall because red make people turn up, I mean, so, just stuff like that. So being more trauma informed, looking at everything from a perspective of someone who's going through a crisis, and making sure when they dial a number or when they reach out to us or when they come to, any place to get help, that it is very inviting and that they know that the people who are there are trauma informed and they're there to help them heal.
Yes, that was I think some of the most eye-opening things that as I was going through some of my classes in mental health is to talk about what trauma-informed care truly means. Because I mean, it is it's just like sort of one of those buzzwords too that I think is used a lot, but it is that you understanding every step of somebody's journey from, the moment that, not just the interaction, it's about everything. And I see as you're talking about those red walls and you guys are behind you turning up.
Well, this is more like a more calmer red, okay. Like the red I'm talking about. Like I love red, and red is my color. I look good in red. My skin tone look good in red. But I also too know when I'm putting on red, I'm like, I'm coming back. I'm coming for you, so it's kind of my color. But those things, are really important. I mean, just the, all of those things, just, when, for example, there's called the crisis now model or the living room model. And so it's all about being trauma informed. And I know when I started learning about this and, look, we got dogged out for real. When we had our treatment facility, like we had water coming in when you walk in, the colors were really mild tone. And we had like, soft music, because we knew that a person, if they're opening that door, it's probably a bad day, but it's also a brave day that they actually walked in the door to get help. So we wanted, as soon as they hit the door, before they even saw, someone who's sitting at the desk, not, on the phone eating Cheetos, going, hey, how you doing? May I help you? No. And I've seen places like that, because for real. But no, when they first open the door, because they're already in a bad space. But so how can that calm them down? Even how you approach someone. Hello, how you doing? So glad you're here today. How can I help you? Things of that nature. Just realizing if that person walked in the door of a treatment center, that, they walked in wanting help, and you cannot judge them based on them walking through the door. You have to, matter of fact, be encouraged that they did reach out to help. So, I'm excited that more people, even churches now, even businesses, everybody's talking about how do I best be trauma informed? Because at the end of the day, if you want someone to be productive and, make the environment good for them, and you will see that it's better, for everybody.
Absolutely. All right, we are coming on our last 10 minutes here. So any last thoughts for our listeners, for our interns that are they're working on their master's in social work, and so they're also working on the app, and then we also have obviously our peer support specialists in that program. Do you have any last thoughts for them, or any like words of encouragement? And then of course for our members who are reaching out on the app or reaching out for peer support or for any type of support, what would you say to them?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, again, just let me, thank you and Adam, for the work that you do. And thank you for always, Chelsea, for real, reaching out to me. And I appreciate it more than you know. And we all need each other. We're workers together in this work. And so I just want to, say to, all the members who's out there listening, bravo, good for you. I'm so grateful that you're brave enough to get, to be a part of the HearMe community, to get the help. and the hope that you need. I said that earlier. Healing is your birthright. Life happens, life hurt. We all have brain pain. And so even with all the things that we've been through, we still have the right to live a good life. And look, just like people who live a life, if they have high blood pressure, they have diabetes, they have heart disease, long as they're taking care of themselves and on their regimen according to what their doctor and their treatment team is telling them to do, or what they think is best. Because at the end of the day, we're the best representation. We're the best people who know what's good for us. And so if you being a part of this community is an amazing thing, and so stay connected, stay encouraged, take it one day at a time. You can live a good life having a mental health diagnosis. It does not have to define you. There is no shame in it, for real, for real. We have a beautiful brain, and we have to take care of our beautiful brain just like we take care of anything else. And for you guys who are in this work, I want to say thank you so much. There's not enough shout out that go to social workers and therapists and MSWs and LCSWs and peer support specialists. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you so much. And do not get weary in your well-doing. I know that this is hard work, but at the end of the day, you're saving someone's life. You're the answer to someone's call when they're hurting. You're their answer, and you're giving them hope. So I know the work you do does not go notice a lot. It might not be a lot of money. It's unfortunate that baseball players make more than teachers and doctors. I'm just saying that's a story for another day. But your work matters. You're helping people. So even as you helping people, make sure you stay in a healthy place. Make sure you take care of yourself, because we need you. And look, people are mostly not, they pick this work because they're called to do it. But just make sure, while you're called to do this, you're also kind to yourself. I can't stress that enough. And I have to practice what I preach. And so we all have to make sure we take care of each other in this space. And so I just want to say that, I'm grateful I get to do this work. I'm grateful that I get to wake up and push hope at the end of the day. And look, to all of you guys who are doing all this amazing work, I know you're doing good work. Adam, I know you're doing good work. Chelsea, I know you're doing good work. I know your staff and everybody's doing good work. But at the end of the day, the best work that you can do is on yourself. And that's going to make it better for us, our family, our friends, and everybody else. And so I'm just super excited to be a part of this space. I'm super excited about 988. I'm super excited that we're having conversations like this. I'm super excited that we're talking about mental health and that let people know that they can live their best blessed life, and so it's just a beautiful thing. But we got to continue to fight. We got to continue to advocate. We got to continue to make our voices heard, and we got to continue to be kind to one another and to respect one another.
Yes, absolutely. I love that when you did your introduction, you started with talking about self-care and taking care of yourself, and you wrapped it up with that, because I think you're right. It has to start with you. If you're going to help anybody else, you've got to take care of yourself. And you are absolutely right. Everyone who's doing this work, sometimes it feels like maybe a thankless job, and sometimes the support is not there for the people, for the supporters, and so taking care of yourself, reaching out for support when you need it, as somebody who's always there for other people, is just so important. And definitely another I think important aspect of this like peer system is to say, like, you've got all these people who understand, who are part of this mental health space that is not an easy one to be in, but it's certainly rewarding, and it's we're all here for a reason.
Yeah, can I say this right quick? I forgot to tell you, because people ask me all the time. They said, so Tonja, you talked about what happened 6.5 years ago. You tried to kill yourself. I mean, but you were still doing this work. We saw you all over the place doing all this other stuff. And see, let me be a lesson to that, because even though my husband and I we had a staff of treatment professionals, and a lot of them tried to encourage me to go to therapy. I'm like, I ain't going to therapy. I do this work. I got this. And so that 6 years ago was a defining moment in my life, because two things happened right quick. Is that, I finally went to counseling. But before I went to counseling, when I went to the hospital and I stayed there for 7 days, I had about 15 or 17 family members come and see me throughout that time. And Chelsea, when I sat at that table and they sat across from me, I saw hurt. I saw hurt. I saw how scared they was. I saw how broken they was, and I saw the pain that they had. And it clicked for me that all the pain that I had been carrying all these years, I thought would die with me. That pain would have not died with me. That pain would have transferred to my family and friends. And that was a wake up moment for me, because all of that pain, I would never want anybody to feel that pain. And that sparked something in me. And like, no, Tonja, it wouldn't have died with you. It would have transferred. And so you like now you got all of my family and friends now living their life going, what the hell, and blaming themselves. And they would have took on my pain. But then when I did get out, I went to counseling for the first time, still in counseling. When they finally diagnosed me with PTSD, not that I had a brain tumor, because they thought I had a brain tumor, they thought I had MS. Got diagnosed properly, got on medication, started going to therapy. Can I tell you, for the first time in my life, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I'm 58. And for the first time in my life, in the last 6.5 years, I have not had one thought of suicide. It is no longer in my back pocket. And so I am grateful. And so we have to take better care of ourselves doing this work, because again, I don't want you to go through what I did, because I didn't listen. And so when I finally got diagnosed and everything came into place, then again, the first time in my life, not having a thought of suicide, no suicide ideations. It is no longer in my back pocket. I want to live, and I will live. And when I die, I'm not going to die tired. I'm going to die empty. Okay, you got to come. You got to get together now. I ain't going to cry. You got to stop crying. You got to help me.
That deserved a moment. That deserved a moment. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing that in the space. I don't know how many people are here listening. I kind of see some comments come up, but I think that's so important. That's so important for people to hear. So I hope as many people get to see this as possible. And I know you're telling your story far and wide, and you are saving lives, and then now, and you're alive, and that's so special. I don't even remember what I was going to say. So it's important. But thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for continuing this conversation and always answering my text and hopping on when I ask for anything. I love it. It's amazing. And we're just going to continue this. We're just going to continue talking about it, because there was several things that came up that it's like, we need conversations about this. We need to talk about this. So you will hear from me. You will hear from me very soon.
Yes.
I don't think we have any additional. I don't actually know. I should be better at this, but okay, let's see. No.
You're great.
All right. Yeah. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll share the video on our page. We'll make sure that it's available to watch after the fact, and then we'll share some more toolkits and things about 988 too, so that you can share with your networks. And we're just going to continue to talk about this and spread the word, because we all deserve hope and healing and the connection to it, and that's what we're doing here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tonja. Bye.
Bye.